Okay, I think we are ready to get started. So thank you, everyone. Welcome back to our professional development workshop series. My name is Thais Bingham-Hickman, Dr. Thais Bingham-Hickman, and I am the Associate Director of the Leadership Alliance, and I will be the moderator for today's workshop. Today's workshop is a component of the Leadership Alliance's virtual professional development program. We partnered and created this initiative to ensure continuity of skill building, networking, and exposure to graduate programs for students from all across the country. This series would not be possible without the work of our colleagues at Brown University, Chaminade University, Weill Cornell Medical College, and Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. To those colleagues, thank you for your efforts in helping us to create this program. Today's panel will focus on budgeting and funding your graduate school education. Our panelists will include representatives from Wells Fargo and R&D scientist with the Department of Defense, Dr. David Stout. So with us from Wells Fargo, we have Sandra Bonilla, who is a senior registered client associate with Wells Fargo. Sandra earned her degree in finance and international business from Fairfield University. She started her career in the financial industry in the summer of 2011 while attending university. After graduating, Sandra joined Morgan Stanley and subsequently the Voyage Group of Wells Fargo advisors full-time to develop her passion for wealth management. Sandra has dedicated herself to helping individuals, families, and small businesses with everything from retirement planning, college planning, to wealth preservation and charitable giving. She takes the time to examine every element of a client's financial life, including cash reserves, liability management, investments, employee stock options, insurance, estate planning strategies, and tax-efficient investing strategies. Also with us, we have David Stout, who is a Leadership Alliance alumni. Dr. Stout obtained his BS in aerospace engineering with a minor in chemistry from California State University, Long Beach, and his PhD in biomedical engineering with an emphasis in material science and solid mechanics from Brown University. Currently, Dr. Stout is an R&D scientist within the Department of Defense, where he conducts and leads research endeavors. Before joining the DoD, Dr. Stout worked with the Basic Research Office at DoD as a program scientist and was at the National Science Foundation's Computer Information and Science Engineering Directorate within the Division of Information and Intelligence Systems. Additionally, Dr. Stout has a faculty appointment at California State University, Long Beach's Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering Department. David's research focuses on solid mechanics, dynamics, and material engineering techniques in medical applications. So thank you so much to our panelists. And I think we're going to start with the budgeting process. And Dr. Stout will lead us through that material. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for that fantastic introduction. That was a little too nice. I'm just a normal guy just trying to make the world a better place. That's just about me. But again, just this short amount of time that I have this opportunity to mainly speak about graduate school funding opportunities, I'd like to emphasize that there are a lot of other opportunities that you as undergraduate students, as well as master's students, have an opportunity to apply to. I'm just really going to mainly focus on the big four, and there's lots of them. Again, look internally within your schools, as well as look at externally at other funding agencies. So next slide, please. Next bar. So thank you. So as my introduction was stated, most of what I'm going to talk about, I actually have personal experience with as a student, as a faculty, as an advisor, additionally as a supervisor, and also a program manager for some of these particular programs. So again, I only have about 10 to 15 minutes to talk about these major opportunities. You can always contact me. I'm always willing and open to any alumni or student or affiliate with the Leadership Alliance. There will be my personal email address as well as my business email address towards the end. So again, one of the big ones that most people talk about is known as the NSF GFRP program. People really freak out about going to graduate school because they worry about money and funding, mainly money. Like, how am I going to pay all this money to go to school to get a master's or a PhD? And there are a lot of funding mechanisms that will help support students so you personally don't have to take any money out, or you personally have someone else pay for you to go to school. And that's mainly what we're going to be talking about. The major one that most people know is known as the NSF, or National Science Graduate Research Fellowship Program. It's a 5-year program. I mean, it's a 5-year award, but you can only use the money for 3 years. And I'll talk about that a little bit later between the three too. You get a $34,000 annual stipend. That's on top of them paying for your tuition, as well as all the books and the necessity stuff to go to graduate school. In addition, they actually give you about $12,000, which is known as an educational allowance. That's to help to pay for materials for research, as well as any IT information or IT stuff that you need. Next, please. So the next one that is usually mainly noticed is known as the DoD, or Department of Defense National Defense Science and Engineering Graduate Fellowship Program. It's short for NDSAG. This is kind of very similar to what the National Science Foundation GFRP is. They do full tuition. It's 3 years, so you take it in and hopefully you can finish your program in 3 to 5 years, and you can work with them to extend it. You get a travel allowance. You also get health benefits and health insurance, and they give you full tuition. They give you a little bit more stipend depending upon where you're living. Next, please. Yeah, the third one I'm going to talk about frequently is known as the SMART program. Now, this also comes from the Department of Defense. Both these programs come out of the Basic Research Office, which I actually used to work for. And they also do full tuition, educational fees. They give you cash stipends, health insurance. And the little caveat with the SMART program is you can be an undergraduate, master's, or a PhD student looking into this. And you're guaranteed actually civilian employment within the Department of Defense if you're really interested in working as a civil servant. Next, please. And the last one I want to briefly go over is the National Academy of Science Ford Foundation Fellowship Program. This is actually a esprit de corps program that is actually funded by the Ford Foundation, but it is ran by the National Academy of Science, and they give you annual stipend, field tuition, a lot of benefits, travel budgets, but they also open up a huge professional development program for you. Next, please. So we're going to really go in depth with the Graduate Research Fellowship Program and what it entails. Now, these slides will be available to you hopefully after this presentation, and I've noticed that in all the slides there's a big giant red box, and that red box is, of course, the website that you can get the wealth of information. I encourage each of you to go and look at each one of these websites. I just checked them last night, so I know they're up and running and operational. I actually worked on a few of them. But what's really good is that they are very friendly, and you can actually chat with people, communicate with people to understand what you need to do to ultimately be successful. NSF GFRP is what I consider the granddaddy of them. It's the one that most people try to apply to, the majority of the people that really know it. But what's really interesting too is a lot of people, they worry about, well, I don't think I'm smart enough, or I don't think I'm good enough to really apply to this program. Well, just let you know, when I left NSF, the funding was 20%. And that is quite fantastic for such a high caliber program that will actually pay for you to go to school. Now, again, the overall goal of the NSF GFRP program is to recruit individuals in technically the STEM fields and to help support them so they can be excellent researchers in the future and ultimately become faculty, and to promote the educational, not the research and the educational field as a whole. Now, if you look down at the bottom of the slide, it says GFRP, and I have quotations features. This is kind of the down and dirty part of what entails in the program. What are the benefits? What are the things that you need to do as a student, or what is GFRP going to offer? You're going to see each one of these in all these slides. So this is kind of a little snapshot. The fellowship, which is really cool, is an award to an individual. It's not awarded to the school. It's not awarded to an advisor. It's actually awarded to the individual. That is really important because you, as a student, have like what I consider like a Willy Wonka idea, a golden ticket. You can take this to any school, to any faculty, and say, hey, I really want to do research with you. I love this program. I love this research. And you're technically free work for those people. The flexibility is you really get to choose the project, the advisor, and the graduate program you ultimately want to go to. It is known as unrestricted, which means that once you take this fellowship, there are no service requirements or completion. You can stop in the middle of it if you want. You can change to a different degree program if you want. You just have to work with NSF to do those things. But once you have it, it ultimately is your funding. Again, you have to understand the budget and the process of how to make sure the money works and fluctuates, and that's after I present. The other people are going to talk about the budget and the funding and a lot of those things. But again, it's also portable, which means that you can really go to any accredited university or institute within the United States to use this funds to ultimately reach your goal of a graduate degree. Next slide, please. The next one I want to talk about a little more in depth is known as, like I said, the not the GFRP, but the DSENGFP, which is the Defense Science Engineering Graduate Research Program. This is also known as the DoD GFRP. It's quite equivalent. There are a little bit difference in caveats in a sense is that a particular branch of service will fund you to do that research or that work. You have to kind of come up with a project or a topic that you really want to do. But again, it doesn't mean that you work for that branch or that you have to work for the DoD. It just means that the DoD sees a lot of interesting ideas that are coming out of your research and they want to fund it. But ultimately what they really want to do is they want to recruit individuals to solve really complex national security challenges. Now, you don't have to do that as a graduate student, but mainly what you're doing is you're just learning the tools and the trade as a graduate student. Someone's paying for you to learn those things. Again, what's great about this program is it's awarded to the individual themselves. So you can actually go to different locations if you want to. It's flexible again. You can choose a project, you can choose your advisor, and you can ultimately choose the graduate program. Most people that apply for the DoD GFRP are usually in their first year of their graduate program. Again, it's unrestricted. So once you have the fellowship, you're not required in a sense to work for anybody or do anything that other people want you to do. It is for you to do, to take that money and to expand your knowledge and ultimately become a researcher or a scientist that you like to. Again, it's portable, so you can move around, you can do a lot of things with. But what's another caveat about the DoD GFRP is you have an opportunity to go and to do a lot of DoD internships. Now, for those that don't know what a DoD internship is, that means that if you want to go onto an aircraft carrier and understand material science or mechanics, you can do that. If you want to learn about satellite applications and there's an agency or the Navy or the Air Force are working on those things on an unclassified setting, you have opportunity in the summertime to actually go there, do that research with those groups, with a mentor of your choosing, and they pay you to do that. Again, they are paying you to learn and to gain experience and become the best person you want to become. Next slide, please. The next DoD funding opportunity I want to talk about is known as the SMART program. This is a little different than what we mainly talked about previously, the previous program. This is known as the recruitment program, I put in parentheses. Again, this is not what they call it. This is me personally. This is Dr. Dave saying what it is, but the DoD's recruitment program. Again, this is to really recruit individuals of high caliber and mainly the STEM fields and ultimately want to hire them. Now, if you obtain this fellowship, you can obtain it as an undergraduate student, you can obtain it as a master's student, or you can even obtain it as a PhD student. It lasts up to 5 years, actually about 4 to 5 years, and you can ultimately extend it if you need to. Again, the money is there for you. It is awarded to ultimately the individual and the school itself. So it's a kind of a tied joint opportunity between the school and the individual to successfully produce a researcher. Again, there is a little flexibility, project advisor graduate program, but what's different about the SMART program is the service requirement after completion. You're required, once you sign that you're going to take this fellowship, that you're going to work for the DoD in some specific capacity at a specific amount of time. Now, what that looks like and what that entails is a huge breadth of flexibility. You can work for the Navy, Army, Air Force. As anyone that knows in the government, there are hundreds of different offices doing 100 different challenges. But if you're really interested in becoming a civil servant or a researcher within the government, this is a great opportunity because ultimately you are guaranteed a position within the government to be an R&D scientist. You do participate in DoD internships. And what's also additional with the SMART program is in the summertime, you're usually sponsored by a DoD facility. So if you're looking at materials, you might go to the Material Research Institute or the Material Research Laboratories that are in Ohio. If you're interested in airplanes and avionics, you might go to Mountain View for a summer and work with NASA Ames Research Facility over there. Those are the things that are given to you as a real-world experience that you're expected to do when you obtain these funds. Next slide, please. Now, last one I'm going to talk about due to time is the National Academy of Science Ford Fellowship. This is known as the Esprit de Corps Fellowships. The National Academy of Science is a fantastic group and organization, really smart individuals and a lot of Nobel laureates that try to promote science in general. But what's more important about this program is its main focus on increasing the diversity of the nation's college and university faculty by increasing the ethnic and racial diversity within the secondary education system. This is a little different than the previous ones where they're mainly focused on R&D and research and helping the individual. This is more helping the wealth of academia. So again, the overall goal of this program not only is to fund people to get their graduate degrees, but more importantly, to recruit individuals with diverse backgrounds to increase the number of faculty, to use that diversity as a strong point to make the faculty and the academia more diverse. And as we know, when you become a more diverse organization, you are able to solve better, you're able to solve more complex challenges in an easier way and see things in a totally different light, a different shed. And this is really what the National Academy of Science is really focusing. Again, the fellowship is awarded to the individual as well as the school. So you get some of the funds and the school also gets some of the funds as a promise that they're going to fund you the whole time that you're in graduate program. There's a lot of flexibility as project advisor or graduate program that you obtain or you want to get into. There is no service requirement, which is if you're looking of not wanting to do something or you're not sure what you want to do after graduate school, this is another great program to follow. What's also very important is it's open to non-STEM fields. Now this is really imperative because a lot of fellowships are really focused on STEM, but this one is focused also on non-STEM. So if you're looking at poli-sci, if you're looking at history, if you're looking at literature, this is a great opportunity to actually get your graduate program funded. It is portable and you actually have lots of opportunities to do internships with National Academy of Science. That can be on the political front, that can be in international work, that can be working within particular agencies within the DoD and United States as a whole. I know that there are some fellows that went into a program called OSTP, which is the Office of Technology and Science for the President. They were able to work there for a little bit to kind of promote research, but also promote how scholarly work should affect the next 10 to 15 years. Next slide, please. So the last thing I want to end on, because I know my time is coming up really short, is please do not cut yourself out short of any of these opportunities. You might be thinking, well, I don't know if I'm good enough, or I'm not sure. I'm comparing myself to hundreds or even thousands of other people. If you don't apply, you already know what your answer is. It's going to be no. I have a personal experience where I actually was an NSF GFRP. I had no idea. I just threw my, I put my ideas forward. They came back and said, yes, you're accepted. And I couldn't believe it. Little me coming from the West Coast, didn't know any big giant universities, just trying to make the world a better place. And I was able to obtain one of these fellowships. And it has wonderful, wonderful benefits that I've had. As a faculty, I've actually had multiple students get all 4 of these opportunities. And each one of them said, I don't know if I can. And I always said, yes, you can. And I've been very lucky and blessed to know that a lot of my students have been able to get this. And all of them said, I didn't think so. And all I have to say is, all you have to do is apply. So next slide, please. So again, it's about as much time as I have. I completely apologize. I can go in depth about every single one of these, but these are my 2 email addresses. My left email address, daveace@gmail.com, again, is my personal email address. Please, if you want these slides, if you want to go in depth, I actually have examples of submissions of all 4 of these that actually have been accepted and been, funded. Please send me an email. I have lots of experience with all 4 of them. Just make sure that you say, who you are and what you want and those things. I'll make sure to do it. If I don't respond to that email, I also have my professional EDU email, which is the second one, david.stout@cslb.edu. So I will be quiet because I know we're going to talk about once we get the money, how do we do all these other fun things and making sure you have enough money to progress for the next 3 to 5 years. But again, thank you for this opportunity. I will answer questions at the end of this meeting.
Sorry, so now we're going to transition to Sandra. So Sandra, I'll let you introduce your team.
Thank you, Dr. Tice, for the introduction, and to the Alliance for having our team here. Special thanks to Avelina Amato from Weill Cornell Medicine, who really helped me understand the importance of financial education, in particular in the research and academic careers world. Now, before I introduce the gentleman that will hopefully awaken your internal financial genius, I want you to know that our team will be available to answer any questions that may not have been covered during this webinar. Our team focuses really on supporting and being there for those who are traditionally underrepresented in the investment world. That's where our team really comes in. We look at your wholesome financial picture, and together we really help achieve the financial future you envisioned. Now, my partner, Alex Sagona, who will be leading this presentation, will be speaking regarding budgeting and the importance of credit. Alex, who is the Senior Relationship Manager here at Wells Fargo, he runs the at-work program here for New York and the Long Island market. As a Senior Program Manager here at Wells, Alex is responsible for managing all of the at-work processes. So all of these seminars, we have some fun budgeting sheets that I hope you have ready to go through as Alex takes us through this. Alex earned his BA in history in Manhattanville College and a master's degree in international business from Webster University in London. He is actually fluent in 2 languages, native of Paris, France, French being his native tongue. So we welcome him, and I'll go ahead and let him take it from here. Alex?
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. Thank you very much for having me today. And don't worry, I'm going to stick to English on this one. But you know, there's so much to cover here on this information on budgeting and credit management. But what you'll hear today is a base to give you at least some consistency and help you create a plan that will help you actually manage some of if you want some of the criteria that come into managing a budget and managing some of the savings. What we do at Wells Fargo is try to figure out ways to really help you, you know, develop the process, create an action plan, create a budgeting process also that will give you consistency again, as I mentioned before, and really the right objective, and also to manage it within, you know, that timely process that you're going to see today. And it's a timeline process, right? Managing your money could be anywhere from looking at a month process to 2 months to 3 months to 6 months to almost a year. So I think that what you'll hear today is a good base of what we can do. And I know we only have 20 minutes to do this, but I think with the information that we have, you'll be able to really get a good idea on how to do this. So if we can get to the next slide, please. The agenda today very quickly is, you know, literally setting some financial goals. You know, what are the goals that you're trying to set and how you're going to manage those goals and what those goals will mean to you as you move forward. Building the budget basically is, you know, the structure. What does the budget look like? And why should we do a budget really? And what does the budget tell you about your lifestyle? When I do these seminars, literally what I hear a lot is how do I actually fit my living into the budget that I have? Well, everybody has different ways of looking at their lifestyle. And I think the budget will give you, if you want that base, to help you get there. Then we'll give you some tips and tools for managing your money. One of the things that we send out to you guys is the budget worksheet here. And I don't know if you have it, but if you have it, keep it kind of near you as we go through this presentation, because I'll give you the foundation and it will all come together as we go through this presentation. So, and you'll see how easy it is to start thinking differently on how to manage that money. So if we could get to the next slide, please. So in order to really create your budget, and again, the timeline here, it says 1 to 2 months, but it's really to track where your spending is going. Number one is always, I mean, you'll see some of the stuff here that doesn't really apply, but you know, if you look at housing, transportation, groceries, utility, then we could go down to, you know, entertainment, which is really vacations, gifts, and, you know, childcare is some of the, you know, sometimes, but these are really important aspects to really think about where that money is coming. So it's looking at what's coming in and what do you need to do every month in order to apply an effective budget. On the tracking of the spending is we always tell everybody to look at your receipts. It's, you know, when you track it on a cash, or should be a check, debit card, ATM cards, credit card, or anything else that you have, you will see the different ways the money comes in and out. And sometimes tracking your money through an ATM card will be different than tracking your money through credit card because of the interest that comes in with credit card. So always be mindful that the money that goes out, and if you go out and actually purchase something, or if you pay a bill with a credit card, the money situation will be very different than if you're paying cash and check because of the interest that comes with it. So those are different ways to track. So if we can get to the next slide. Here's the budget worksheet that we talked about. And the one that's in front of you is a little bit different. But if you look at basically at how you track it, so you have your monthly income and your monthly expenses, right? Everything from, okay, your investment income, dividend income, your regular money coming in from a student loan, or anything that comes in, it goes through an income. Then right below this, you have the monthly expenses, everything that comes in from your rent, house cleaning, utility bills, everything that has to do with home appliances or cell phone, cable, or anything else that applies that has to be paid on a monthly basis. So we tracked it this way for you there. And right under that, you know, everything that's personal, food, groceries, anything that has to do with, you know, the things that you have to do yourself that has to be actually going in. Now, some of the stuff that you have there is really simple, but tracking it will give you a sense of what that dollar that comes in, what it does when it goes out. Same thing with food, everything that has to do with transportation, everything that has to do with groceries, everything that has to do with actually daily processes. On the income, I mean, on the budget worksheet that we give you, we broke it down this way. On the monthly expenses, you have the rent, the food, auto transportation, your health, everything that has to do with toiletries, cosmetic, pharmacy, health club, and medical cost. And then we have the personal that comes in with dry cleaning, barbershop, hobbies, pets, childcare. I mean, I just happen to have 2 Labradors. So this is kind of stuff that I have to think every month. And I put it down there because that dollar basically sometimes, if I can't fit it in, I have to figure out how to move it around. On the other stuff, it's also, you know, on the vacations, on everything that you're doing, subscriptions, memberships to clubs, or anything else that has also an added cost to it. So we left some room to do that as well. And on education, also what we put in on the one that you have, maybe not on this one, but student loans, books, and everything that has to do with your college funds or graduate fund, you know, process. And the debt is credit card and utility. And at the end, what we did, if you look at the sheet that we send you, is we looked at the total monthly expenses. And then we minus that total, the monthly income. Then we minused it, the monthly expenses, minus the total savings, which is what's left afterwards, right? And that will give you a net cash flow. Now, what we usually do is when people ask us, what is a good tip for us to look at how we can manage our expenses from month to month? One of the things that we've realized is that people should take 1 month budget and put aside the money that you need for everything that you're going to spend and go out and spend it. And then on month number 2, you'll do the same thing. Take the money that you think you're going to spend and go out and start cutting costs. And the difference between month number 1 and month number 2 will be your savings. And that's how we actually manage a budget. And that's how you can see how you can start working your variable costs and your variable expenses. And so that's the way that you can start thinking out how that money actually could be saved on a month or 2 months or even on 6 months. And at the end, what we'll see usually, if you actually track your budget and you start saving this way by cutting costs or managing your budget, you can realize up to a 25% savings rate, which should go actually on the side as an emergency fund or to supply the extra funds that you might need to pay for all the extra costs that come in during the year. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So again, what can I use savings or other goals for, right? Take home pay, bonuses. Again, income, everything that comes in on dividend, alimony, side businesses. Then you look at your needs, right? So you got your income, you got your needs, housing, groceries, utility, transportation, child care, if that comes into play. Those are things that are actually fixed costs that you have to do. Your short-term goal should be an emergency fund, a vacation, and gift, right? So the game of budgeting and saving is simply this. What am I budgeting today? And what am I doing for a month, 2 months to 6 months to really figure out where at the end of that period, that money has gone and how much savings do I have? And again, 25%, if you can't do that, that should give you the barometer of what you want to do. And of course, you got the one for the long-term goals, and you get the one to reduce debt on the short-term goals. If we can go to the next slide, please. Again, do you have money left over? And again, for us, the money left over from what you spend helps you build basically different, different opportunities, right? One is to put to repay your debt, or to actually put money towards retirement, or put money on the side as an emergency fund. Or again, if you have other goals set, other goals to set, or to pay other expenses that are non-recurring at the present time, but you don't expect to come, but do come, that's very important to do. And again, if you don't have left money over, then you kind of put yourself in a crunch here. So always make sure that when you look at your budget, manage it so you actually have an expectation that when you stop, thinking about that budget, that you have enough money left over going forward. If we could go to the next slide, please. Again, very quickly here, where's my money going? How can I save more money? What am I saving for, right? What is it my goal? What is it my lifestyle? Where am I going? Why am I spending the money that I'm spending? Am I spending too much money? Am I spending too little money? Am I saving enough money? Or if I'm not budgeting effectively, why am I paying more money than I should? And am I reaching my financial goals on time? And am I meeting my expectations? And is my lifestyle really managed by the way I'm managing my budget? We could go to the next step, please. Again, these are different ways, money saving ideas. Again, it's to reduce your expenses or to find extra money. This is something that your banker or Wells Fargo can help you kind of figure out how to help you work with this. If we could go to the next slide, please. Again, spending and shopping tips is pretty much self-identifying, right? If you look at, where am I in my spending patterns? Am I actually using it effectively? Am I keeping track of my spendings? Am I actually making the major purchases that I need or don't need? And am I focusing on what's really important? And what are my creative ways for me to start saving money? Next slide, please. Again, so here we are. So what we're going to go through now is a little bit to kind of help you look at credit and credit management. Credit is probably the most important aspect of how we manage our budget, because literally when you look at credit, you're looking at how you manage the interest rates, which could help you actually develop more money opportunities to have back into your bank account. So with that, if we can go to the credit, there we go. And next slide, please. So the topics are literally credit basics, debt to income ratio, the 5 C's of credit, establishing good credit. We're going to talk maybe we'll talk a little bit about improving credit and managing your debt. Next step, please. Next step, please. A credit report. Well, the credit report is simply this. It's a detailed history of where you are and how responsibility comes in and how you manage that credit history. For us, a credit will actually tell us where you stand and how we can help you get to your financial goal. So always, if you have the time, go into your credit report, which you could go online and look at where you are to see if you're meeting the basic expectations of what that credit is telling you. Next step, please. Again, it's a representation of responsibility and where your credit is actually managed effectively or not. So make sure that you know where your credit score is, where your credit score should be, and where you want it to be. Because ultimately, that's how the banks are going to actually see where you are and how we help you to manage your financial expectations. Next step, please. Here are the components, basically, on the credit report, a detailed list of your credit history. So if you look at the bottom of the page, here are the credit score components, right? And we divided it in percentage to show you what we look at when we make decisions to grant you the credit. So 35% is payment history, 30% is what the amount is owed, 15% length of credit history, 10% new credit, and then 10% is credit mix. Next page, please. credit report is this. It's a detailed list of your credit history. And also the credit score is a representation, again, as we spoke. So if you look at it, we actually have it into 4 different aspects. Your excellent score is 760 and plus. So that means that the highest credit score will go to 880. Generally, if you qualify for the best rates, we'll look at your debt to income ratio and what your collaterals are in order to make that decision. A good credit report is everything from 700 to 759, which means that literally you're right above where you need to be in order to be effectively have the best rates. Fair credit is 629 to 699. 620 is pretty much the cutting line to what the banks are looking. The reason why this is really important for you guys is because the lower the credit score, the higher the interest will be on anything that you want to apply for. So if you look at a car payment, if you're on a monthly basis, or if you look at anything else, what you will have is a 3 to 4 point difference on the interest. So make sure that you manage that credit score, manage that you look at it on a monthly basis, maybe on a quarterly basis. And if your credit is not where you want it to be, really try to manage the expectations up by doing different things we're going to talk about. Next step, please. Debt to income ratio, very, very important when we look at actually how we manage those processes. Next step, please. A comparison between how much you owe each month and how much you earn. So how much money is coming in versus how much money is going out. And this is something that you actually look at when you do actually your budget. So that's why we started with a budget toolkit, because you really need to manage how much money is coming in and how you spend it and what that credit history is telling you and how many credit cards you're paying and how much money is coming out versus how much money you have, set up. Next step, please. Monthly debt payment divided by monthly pre-tax income. Next step, please. Again, here we go. It's a comparison between how much you owe each month and how much you earn. So the monthly debt payment divided by monthly tax income, as you can see here, we put an example. So if you have a $5,000 monthly income that comes in for any sources, by the way, and then with a $1,500 monthly debt payment, your DTI ratio will be about 30%, which is okay. Next step, please. Again, if you have $5,000 monthly income, well, we did this one already. The next one, please. A comparison between how much you owe, again, each month and how much you earn. If you look at the standards, looking good is 35% or less. So you always want to make sure that you stay as low as possible. If you go up to 36 to 49%, you'll be on the cutting line. And what you'll need to do is to actually look again on how you're managing basically that debt versus that income. And again, if you're 50% or more, consider taking an action 50% or more. And you could do this by meeting with one of the bankers or kind of looking at your overall spending patterns and looking at your income and what your income is telling you and what your debt is actually telling you. Again, next step, please. Again, we went through this. Next step again. The 5 C's of credit, very important to remember as you look at your credit. Next slide, please. Credit history, number 1, your track record of managing credit and making payments over time. That is always the number 1 process. Always track how you're managing your credit on a monthly basis and make sure that no matter what happens, you make your payments every month on time. We also recommend that you make those payments at least 1 week or 2 weeks prior to the time closing, which will help your credit score, by the way. Because if you wait until the end, what will happen is you will actually, won't be able to track as much as possible. Go to number 2, next slide. Capacity, next slide. Collateral, next slide, something you owe. Capital, again, self-explanatory. Those are the 5 C's. Step 5, conditions, the economic environment and how you plan to use. Go next step, please. Establishing credit very quickly because I'm running out of time. Next step, please. Lay the foundation for good credit. Pay your bills on time. Open a checking accounts and use a debit card responsibly, right? Build a savings account. If you use your credit card, it will do. It will actually create more interest. Lay the foundation for good credit. Again, Way to get started, consider gasoline, okay, blah, 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 becoming an authorized user. Next slide, please. Improving your credit. Next slide, please. Be responsible, make consistent on-time payments. Next slide, please. Be consistent. Next. Keep your balance low. Next. Stabilize your situation. Next. And then again, very quickly, I think I'm running out of time here. So here's a scenario. This is something you can talk to a banker very effectively, where they could really help you and manage that process. So make sure to, if you have a problem with your credit, or if you're looking at the money that you're not balancing effectively based on loan payment, reach out to a banker and let us know how we can help you manage that process and how we can help you improve your credit. Next slide. Keep going, please. Debt consolidation, pay off your debt faster, lower your monthly payment, pay off your monthly expenses loan first, know your limit. Next slide, please. Again, self-explanatory. A banker could really help you do this. Next slide, please. And there we are. Basically, the financial goals. Pretty much, I need to stop there because I'm running out of time. But again, when you apply for credit, meet with a banker, look at your credit, look at what you can actually bring to the table as far as you're concerned, manage your budget, create consistency, develop a plan, get yourself ready before you do this. And once you get your money from your student loans for your monthly or quarterly pay, living opportunity, make sure that you actually build that process effectively so you don't have any problems going forward. So with that, I'll pass it back to Sandra, and thank you very much for allowing me to talk to you a little bit about this. And I hope that if you have any question, you'll reach out to us.
Thank you, Alex. And just to really cover really what Alex was trying to say, I know that maybe you're not at that point where you do have your credit established. It is important to know what goes into that, because these will be sort of what these banks and institutions will be looking at when they go in to really be able to give you those loans in order to fund really that career that you're looking to build. Now, the most important part of this is that you are aware that there are teams there that fully support and are there to provide the guidance, such as our team. Wells Fargo Advisors and Wells Fargo have a complete program that we can give you links in order for you to go in and have a little bit more education on the basics of investing. So there's courses you can take. There's a lot of things that are available before you go in and live in a very expensive city with limited funding in such a great and needed career that you guys one day hope to be in. So thank you all.
Thank you, Sandra, and thank you to our panelists, Alex and David. I know there were quite a few questions that came in through the Q&A tool, and David has addressed most of the questions that were directed to him. We do have some open questions for the Wells Fargo team, so if you guys are available, we still have about 10 minutes left to get through some of these questions, and then if there are still additional questions, then we can circle back over email and connect you with students directly. But Alex, one of the questions that came in is what additional things should one be aware of when budgeting as an international student? Is there anything specific that you want to?
Yeah, I can tell you what's really important here is to look at your exchange funds, money coming in, and make sure that it meets the actually obligations here in the United States. So when I meet with a lot of, or the bankers meet with a lot of international students, the first thing they ask us is, first of all, can I open a checking account? And then what we tell them to do is, of course you can. And what you should do is actually also open a savings account, and so that you can start figuring out how that money is managed. Also, look at the interest rates. Excuse me, not the interest rates, but look at the exchange rate, so that you don't run out of money, or that the money basically meets the expectations here. So you can do it or abroad, or you can do it here, or you can meet with a banker wherever that banker is, whatever institutions, and they'll be able to help you with that. I remember when I did the other way, I did my MBA in London. So I was looking all the time when I got the loans, I was looking at how I could figure out the interest rate at the time and how I could manage that process. And sometimes you will see a pretty big difference, which will help you actually manage your savings, or you'll be able to manage your budget more effectively. And by the way, once you see the difference between what you would have, you can put that money into a savings account. So that would be the number one thing that I would look at.
Great, thank you. Another question that we have is, would you recommend investing if money is left over in your budget?
Well, this is a question for Sandra, but I'll tell you, investing has many different ways. You know, for us, for example, I work with the retail bank. So when we looked at, you know, on the bank product side, should it be a money market fund or a CD or whatever it is for short term. But I think Sandra is really, could really give you an insight on how that would be you'd be able to do this. So Sandra, if you want to take that one. Sure.
I am a big advocate in investing. Now, I do advise that you talk to someone whose sole job is to really research and really understand how these different products work. I would say that the most important thing when you start is to build a savings budget before you go and you start really investing in the market. Now, what we advise is have 6 months of living expenses in your savings before we really look at you going in. Something to look at, and so some trick that you may use is there's a ton of websites that can offer some accounts. They are interest-bearing savings accounts, and they're free, so no cost. Nerdwallet.com is a great website that compares different credit cards, different savings accounts. I would go in and really take a look at managing your savings first, have 6 months of expenses ready, make sure that money is in a interest-bearing account, that there are plenty with no annual fees. You don't need to have, so make sure you're looking at that. Once we're there, I am a big advocate in us going into the markets, being aware of what we're going into. So there's a lot of mutual funds that may have lower costs for you to go into instead of going in and looking at separate positions. But we really would dive into those sort of specifics on a one-on-one basis. And as a general sort of beginner 101, having 6 months of savings before you really take a look at building the next step in your investing.
Yeah, if you don't mind me adding a little bit here too, is if you would go down to the branch and meet with anybody, the bankers will tell you the same. You would have to have a minimum amount of certain dollars. So, but whatever you feel comfortable with, there are different products that you can get invested with. So, again, it's how comfortable you are with managing that process. So. But again, if you're ready to invest, or if you're ready to actually put money aside and see it grow, I would take that step if you can do it, if you're comfortable doing it.
Okay, thank you. We have 2 questions from related to the same topic. The first question is, what if I don't have a credit card? Do I still have a credit report and score? And also, what age or stage in life do you advise getting a credit card?
Well, okay. If you do not have a credit card, you must establish credit. It's very important for you to establish credit. And by doing this, what you can do is go to the bank, and they can do 2 things. They can look at your credit report, and then if you do not have credit, they can give you what they call a secure credit card. Wells Fargo doesn't do that anymore, but that's one way to start. Again, a credit card pretty much is of usage for anything today, and it's with the license. So I would, if you do not have one, I would just go down to the bank and kind of inquire what you can do. And then the other thing, really, it's after college. If you're in college, there's different ways that you can get that credit card. On the secure credit card, basically, we can help you in putting in money yourself in, and then you pay it back. And as your credit history develops, then we can help you manage that process up, and then we can help you actually establish that credit. But if you do not have credit now, you might not know you don't have credit. So I would check. I would go to different credit sites that are available, and once you establish if you have credit and where you are, then if you don't have it, then that's what I would do. But always meet with a banker and try to figure out how you can start doing that, because that's going to be very important as you go forward. Sandra, do you have any more?
I do. I want to also make you aware that there are other ways to really start building credit. It's not just with a credit card. If you have, I remember that I actually had to take a car out in order to get to my internship, and I had my parents co-sign it, but it was under my name, right? And that is one way, as if you're making payments on a monthly basis on time, which is why it's very important what Alex went over, what counts into this credit report, right, that we may not have established yet, is timely payments on whether it be your car payment, or you have to now put your phone on your own name, right? So anything that has your name attached to monthly payments can be a start to that credit history that you will sure enough get to establish. Now, in terms of a credit card, I do, as we talk to clients and we meet their kids, I do want to stress that this is not, fake money. That a lot of these cards have interest rate, which is why it's very important to take a look at the NerdWallet. Again, goes through all the differences of interest rate. There's a lot of the time we may not know, and further down the line, once we have maybe a balance, is that we can sort of negotiate our interest rate if we have paid on time. These are all tricks that can better your credit, help you in the long run to be able to save a little bit on a monthly basis. But I do want you to be aware that once you have this credit card out, it is not fake money. You will have to pay interest on it. It is important, and this is the start of your credit history, which, much like your transcript, will then be later on used to judge what will be lent out to you and how trustworthy you are in those loans.
Yeah, I think, and again here, always remember this, a credit card is a loan. Look at it as a loan. So if you have a $5,000 credit card, as Sandra was saying, it's money that you have to pay back. But also be aware that when you use that credit card, right, you're not paying face value. What you're paying is, let's suppose you go buy something for $50. What happened is the interest, which is whatever that interest is, could be up to 7% to 15%, depending on your credit. And by the way, this is why the credit history is so important to you, because what happened is when we give you a credit card, that will tell us where you are and how responsible you are, because we want to make sure that it fits. This comes back to what we were saying about the budget and savings, right? When we look at this is why before you go to a bank, do that budget, because we want to give you that loan, and we want you to be responsible about the loan, and we want to see how it fits into your budget. And again, when you look at the interest rates, will that interest rate plus doing the down payment on whatever you need to pay, will that fit into your budget? Or will you have to extend the payments, which with interest accumulating every month, might no longer be feasible to be actually clean every month on the budget side. So always remember that credit card really is a loan, and I would use that credit card for emergency purposes, or really to identify yourself as credit worthy, and to have at least an emergency cash if you need it. What a lot of people do, and I'll pass it back on, is that a lot of people use a credit card as an extend to their monthly income. And that becomes kind of a problem as you go forward, because people will borrow $500 to meet the expenses for the budget a month before. So make sure that credit card is really there to help you establish credit and to help you if you need any kind of credit going forward. And then, so I would say use it, pay it back, make sure you always pay the minimum balance on the account, plus 35% if you can. If you can pay it all off, pay it all off. But usually minimum balance plus 35% will actually keep you on track. And make sure that you pay the bills at the beginning of the month, because the credit agencies are waiting for the receipts to come in from the credit card companies. And if you wait until the end of the month to pay at the due date, then those receipts will come in after the due date, basically because they have to be sent to the credit agency. So make sure that you time it 2 or 3 weeks. That's what I was saying before the due date, so that the credit agencies know that you're on time and that you're being responsible by paying.
All right, well, thank you so much to our panelists and everyone that has joined us. As our panelists mentioned, they will be circulating their contact information, which Sam will post in the Google Classroom along with the presentations. So if you have additional questions or questions that have not been answered today, feel free to reach out to them directly. And again, thank you so much for your time, and thanks to our panelists for the information.